Everyone assumes the war in Ukraine is decided on the front lines, by trenches, artillery, and kilometers of territory gained or lost. But what if the center of gravity has quietly shifted hundreds of miles away? What if the most important battlefield is no longer in Donetsk or Zaporizhzhia, but in Moscow itself? Over the weekend, a deadly explosion at an upscale restaurant in central Moscow killed at least 3 people and injured more than 20 others. Russian officials immediately described it as a brutal terrorist attack, while investigators began searching for those responsible. No official evidence has publicly linked the attack to Ukraine, and no group has claimed responsibility. At almost the same moment, another story emerged from Ukraine, not about missiles or tanks, but about an army of drone operators who increasingly believe they can reach almost anywhere inside Russia. These 2 events are separate. One is a bombing under investigation. The other is a rapidly expanding military campaign built around long-range drones. But together, they reveal something much bigger. Behind the headlines, the Russia-Ukraine war may be entering a new phase 1, where distance offers less protection than ever before. And the real question isn't simply whether Ukraine can strike inside Russia. It's whether Russia can still convince its own citizens that the war remains far away. To understand why this matters, we need to step back. When Russia launched its full-scale invasion in February 2022, the Kremlin expected overwhelming military superiority to deliver a quick victory. Instead, the conflict gradually transformed into a war of attrition. Artillery dominated. Fortifications stretched across hundreds of kilometers. Both armies dug in. By 2024 and 2025, many analysts were describing the conflict as one of the most static conventional wars since the Korean War. Yet, beneath that apparent stalemate, another revolution was quietly unfolding. Ukraine began investing heavily in drones, not just reconnaissance drones, but strike drones capable of reaching hundreds and eventually thousands of kilometers. What few people realize is that Ukraine's drone industry has become one of the fastest-growing defense sectors in Europe. Instead of relying solely on expensive imported weapons, Ukrainian engineers, startups, and military units developed increasingly sophisticated long-range systems built for mass production. According to reporting from The Guardian, some Ukrainian drone systems are now capable of flying more than 2,500 kilometers, allowing operators to threaten infrastructure deep inside Russian territory. That changes the geometry of the war, because for most of military history, geography created security. Distance meant safety. Now, distance may simply mean a longer flight time. But here's where it gets interesting. Ukraine's objective isn't necessarily to destroy Russia's military through drones alone. That would be unrealistic. Instead, many of these operations appear designed to force Russia into impossible choices. Every air defense battery protecting Moscow cannot simultaneously protect oil refineries. Every interceptor defending military headquarters cannot defend logistics hubs hundreds of kilometers away. Every radar watching one direction leaves another vulnerable. Military planners call this stretching the defense. Ukraine appears increasingly focused on forcing Russia to spend enormous resources protecting an enormous country. The strategy resembles historical air campaigns, where attackers sought not only physical destruction but also economic disruption and psychological pressure. During World War II, strategic bombing attempted to weaken industrial production. Today, relatively inexpensive drones can threaten facilities that once required fleets of bombers. The economics are striking. A modern interceptor missile can cost many times more than the drone it destroys. Even successful defenses may become financially exhausting over time. That's one reason analysts increasingly describe drones as changing the cost equation of warfare. This is also why the recent reporting from inside Ukraine deserves attention. The Guardian was granted unusual access to elite Ukrainian drone units operating far from the public spotlight. Their commanders describe a campaign aimed not simply at military targets near the front, but at logistics networks, oil facilities, warehouses, transportation infrastructure, and command systems inside Russia. One commander summarized the philosophy with a striking phrase: "This is where democracy beats totalitarianism." Whether one agrees with that characterization or not, it reflects how many Ukrainian officers increasingly view the conflict. For them, innovation has become a substitute for industrial scale. Instead of matching Russia tank for tank or aircraft for aircraft, Ukraine seeks technological asymmetry. Build faster, adapt faster, strike smarter. It's a strategy born partly from necessity. Ukraine simply cannot outproduce Russia in traditional heavy equipment, but drones lower the barrier to entry. Software matters, electronics matter, engineering talent matters. Small manufacturing workshops suddenly become strategic assets. The battlefield begins to resemble Silicon Valley as much as the industrial factories of the 20th century. Now consider the Moscow restaurant bombing. Russian authorities say a woman carrying an improvised explosive device attempted to enter the Balzy Rossi restaurant before security stopped her, causing the device to detonate outside. Among those killed were the alleged attacker, a security guard, and a patron. More than 20 others were injured. Officials are investigating the case as terrorism. At this stage, investigators have not publicly established responsibility, and speculation about potential targets remains unconfirmed. Why does this matter strategically? Because perception often matters almost as much as attribution. For ordinary Russians, repeated incidents, whether drone attacks, sabotage, explosions, or assassinations, gradually change how secure daily life feels. Psychologists sometimes describe this as cumulative insecurity. One isolated incident can be dismissed. Repeated incidents become part of public consciousness. Governments understand this. So do military planners. Russia has spent years presenting Moscow as insulated from the dangers experienced elsewhere. Any event that disrupts that narrative carries political significance regardless of who ultimately proves responsible. Again, that's different from assigning blame. The investigation remains ongoing. But the psychological effect begins immediately. Some observers argue these strikes have limited military value. After all, Russia continues launching missiles. Russian forces remain active across multiple fronts. The war certainly hasn't ended. That's a reasonable argument. Yet it may misunderstand Ukraine's broader objective. Success isn't measured only by destroyed buildings. It's measured by forcing strategic adaptation. If Russia relocates air defenses, Ukraine changes Russian deployments. If oil production slows temporarily, Ukraine affects logistics. If airports suspend operations, transportation is disrupted. If military factories pause production after drone alerts, manufacturing schedules change. None of those individually decides a war. Collectively, however, they impose friction. History repeatedly shows that wars are often decided not by one decisive battle, but by thousands of accumulated pressures. The Allied bombing campaign against Germany did not end the Second World War alone. Neither did submarine warfare. Neither did any single offensive. Victory emerged from cumulative strain across military, industrial, and political systems. Ukraine appears to be pursuing a similar logic, not identical, but conceptually comparable. There's another counter-argument worth considering. Critics say Russia is simply too large, too resilient, too capable of absorbing these attacks. There is truth in that. Russia possesses vast territory, significant industrial capacity, and extensive military resources. One drone strike doesn't fundamentally alter that reality, but that's not necessarily the right comparison. The better question is whether Ukraine can continuously force Russia to spend more defending itself than Ukraine spends attacking. Military economists often describe this as imposing costs. If a relatively inexpensive drone compels expensive defensive measures every day, every week, every month, the long-term balance begins to matter. This mirrors broader trends visible across modern warfare. In the Red Sea, in the Middle East, even around Taiwan. Relatively affordable unmanned systems increasingly challenge assets worth millions or even billions of dollars. The battlefield is becoming financially asymmetric. This is the critical part. Ukraine's drone campaign is also reshaping European defense thinking. For decades, many Western militaries emphasized advanced fighter aircraft, precision missiles, and expensive platforms. Those capabilities remain important. But Ukraine has demonstrated that mass-produced autonomous systems can fundamentally alter operational planning. Several European governments are already accelerating drone investments while studying lessons from Ukraine's battlefield experience. This could become one of the war's most enduring legacies. Future armies may still rely on tanks, they may still rely on fighter jets, but increasingly, those forces will likely operate alongside thousands of autonomous systems coordinating reconnaissance, logistics, electronic warfare, and precision strikes. The Ukraine war isn't merely using drones, it's helping redefine military doctrine. Behind the headlines, another transformation is occurring. Traditional measures of military strength, tank numbers, aircraft inventories, naval tonnage remain important. But software updates can now matter almost as much as ammunition. Artificial intelligence increasingly assists target recognition. Electronic warfare battles occur continuously. Engineers sometimes become as strategically valuable as pilots. This is a different kind of arms race, one measured not only in factories but in algorithms, not only in steel but in code. That evolution extends well beyond Ukraine. Countries across Europe, Asia, and North America are studying every successful drone operation, every failure, every electronic countermeasure, every innovation, because today's battlefield often becomes tomorrow's military doctrine. So where does all this lead? The Moscow bombing investigation will continue. Responsibility may eventually become clearer, or it may remain contested. Either way, it serves as another reminder that Russia's internal security environment has become increasingly complex since the invasion began. Meanwhile, Ukraine's drone campaign appears likely to expand rather than contract. Its commanders increasingly believe long-range precision strikes offer one of the few ways to offset Russia's larger conventional forces. That doesn't guarantee strategic success. Wars rarely follow linear paths. Russia continues adapting. Electronic warfare improves. Air defenses evolve. Counter-drone technologies advance every month. This is a contest of adaptation, not a static competition. And that's precisely why predicting outcomes remains so difficult. History often remembers wars by their biggest battles, but sometimes the truly decisive changes happen more quietly. A new technology, a new doctrine, a new way of thinking about power. The Russia-Ukraine war may ultimately be remembered not only for its destruction, but for demonstrating that relatively inexpensive autonomous systems can challenge one of the world's largest militaries in ways few predicted just a few years ago. The real question we should be asking isn't whether drones are changing warfare. That answer already seems increasingly clear. The deeper question is this: if distance no longer guarantees security, and if affordable autonomous systems can increasingly threaten strategic targets thousands of kilometers away, what does national defense look like in the next decade? Because the lessons being written over Ukraine today won't stay in Ukraine. They're likely to shape military planning around the world for years to come. If you found this analysis valuable, subscribe to Cobalt. We go beyond the headlines to explain not just what is happening, but why it matters, and how today's conflicts are reshaping the future of warfare.